Chapter 1. There is a book that was never written with ink on paper, that was never bound in leather or stored in a library. It exists in a dimension that transcends the physical, woven into the very structure of space-time, encoded in quartz crystals that fell from the sky millennia ago, whispered in the dreams of contactees, downloaded into the minds of channelers during deep trance states. This is the Starry Grimoire of Lyra, and it is not a book in the sense we understand, but a living, pulsating, multi-dimensional transmission sent from a constellation 25 light-years from Earth, a message from our cosmic ancestors that has been waiting for the precise moment humanity would be ready to receive it. The legend, preserved in esoteric circles and among contactee communities, speaks of a night in 1947, the same year as the Roswell incident, that would forever change humanity's relationship with the possibility of extraterrestrial life. That night, in the Andes Mountains, an unusual meteor tore through the Earth's atmosphere. Local inhabitants who witnessed its fall described that it did not glow with the typical orange glare of meteorites, but with an electric blue light, almost as if it were consciously propelled instead of merely falling. When search groups finally located the impact site days later, they did not find the devastating crater they expected. Instead, they discovered a formation of perfectly transparent quartz crystals, each approximately the size of a human fist, arranged in a geometric pattern that formed what appeared to be a 5-pointed star. The crystals radiated a soft warmth and, according to reports from those who touched them, produced a sense of deep recognition, as if something dormant within the soul suddenly awakened. These crystals were quickly scattered. Some fell into the hands of private collectors who never understood their true nature. Others were acquired by esoteric organizations that recognized their non-terrestrial origin. A few reached the hands of specific individuals who, without understanding why, felt irresistibly drawn to them. And it was in the hands of the latter, these prepared recipients, that the crystals began to reveal their true purpose. When a person with a sufficiently elevated vibratory frequency holds one of these crystals during deep meditation, something extraordinary occurs. The crystal does not transmit information verbally or visually as we might expect. Instead, it triggers what can only be described as a direct download of knowledge, a flow of understanding that completely bypasses the verbal intellect and installs itself directly into the deepest layers of consciousness. It is like remembering something you always knew but had completely forgotten, as if memories from thousands, perhaps millions of years suddenly become accessible. Chapter 2. Throughout the following decades, from the late 40s to the present, different fragments of what came to be known as the Starry Grimoire of Lyra have been channeled by individuals scattered across the planet. These channelers, most without knowledge of the others, began to receive transmissions that shared unmistakable central themes, specific terminology, and above all, a particular energetic signature that those familiar with extraterrestrial contact recognize as distinctly Lyran. George Hunt Williamson, one of the first contactees of the modern era, reported in 1952 receiving messages from beings who identified themselves as originating from a star system near Vega in the Lyra constellation. He described these entities as ancient ancestors of humanity, bearers of knowledge about our true cosmic origin. In the 70s, Lysa Royal began channeling detailed information about what she called the Lyran Prism, describing this constellation as the point of origin of the entire galactic human family. Barbara Marciniak, channeling the Pleiadians in the 80s and 90s, received information that confirmed and expanded these messages, revealing that the Pleiadians themselves are descendants of the original Lyran civilization, cosmic cousins of terrestrial humanity. Dolores Cannon, through thousands of hypnotic regression sessions, discovered that numerous clients, under deep hypnosis, reported memories of lives in Lyra, of being part of the Great Migration after what some call the Fall of Lyra. Each of these channelers, and dozens more whose names are less known, but whose contributions are equally valuable, was receiving pieces of the same cosmic puzzle. The grimoire is not a linear document that can be read from beginning to end. It is a holographic transmission where each fragment contains the whole, where each piece reflects the totality from a slightly different perspective. And now, in the early decades of the 21st century, these fragments are converging. Contactees from different continents, traditions, and backgrounds are comparing notes, recognizing the common threads in their receptions. Modern communication technology, ironically, is facilitating the gathering and sharing of this ancient cosmic wisdom. The grimoire is self-assembling, not because someone is deliberately compiling it, but because the time has arrived. The collective frequency of humanity has reached the necessary threshold for the complete transmission to finally be decoded. Chapter 3. Why now? This question is central to understanding the Lyran grimoire. If this information has been potentially available for decades, centuries, perhaps millennia, why is it only now becoming more broadly accessible? The answer, according to the transmission itself, has to do with vibratory frequency, both individual and collective. The grimoire operates according to a principle that science is only beginning to comprehend. Information is not just abstract data that can be transmitted independently of the receiver. Certain knowledge, particularly knowledge that operates in dimensions beyond three-dimensional physics, requires the receiver to be vibrating at a specific frequency to even perceive it, much less understand and integrate it. It is like a cosmic radio station that has been constantly broadcasting for eons, but only those with the receivers tuned to the correct frequency can pick up the signal. For most of recent human history, particularly during the last 2,000 years of what some traditions call the Age of Darkness or Kali Yuga, humanity's collective frequency was too low, too dense, too trapped in materialism, fear, and separation to be able to receive this transmission. But something fundamental is changing. Multiple spiritual traditions, from indigenous prophecies to Hindu teachings on the yugas, from Christian visions of the apocalypse to Mayan cosmology, all converge in pointing to this current period as a time of monumental transition. It is not the end of the world in a literal sense, but the end of a world, the end of an era of consciousness, and the birth of another. Quantum physics is discovering that the observer affects the observed, that consciousness plays a fundamental role in the structure of reality. Neuroscience is mapping expanded states of consciousness that mystics have described for millennia. Technology is connecting humanity in a global network of instant information. And simultaneously, a growing number of people are spontaneously experiencing expansions of consciousness, spiritual awakenings, and encounters with dimensions beyond the ordinary. This convergence is not accidental. It is the result of precise cosmic cycles, of galactic alignments that occur on timescales of thousands of years, of what the grimoire describes as the Great Cosmic Clock, marking an era change. Humanity as a collective is reaching a critical mass of individuals whose vibratory frequency has risen sufficiently to act as receivers and transmitters of the grimoire. When enough people can receive the transmission, it becomes accessible to more and more people through what Rupert Sheldrake would call morphic resonance, the shared field of information that connects all members of a species. Chapter 4. It is crucial to understand that the Starry Grimoire of Lyra is not a book in any conventional sense. There are no pages to turn, no linearly ordered chapters, no singular author who composed it. It is what we might call a multidimensional transmission, a form of communication that operates simultaneously on multiple levels of reality. At the densest physical level, the grimoire exists as the crystals that fell from the sky, as material objects that carry encoded information in their molecular structure. But this is only the most superficial layer. At an energetic level, the grimoire exists as a specific frequency, as a vibratory signature that can be detected by those whose sensitivity has been sufficiently refined. At a mental level, It exists as a field of information accessible through altered states of consciousness, deep meditation, trance, lucid dreams. At a spiritual level, it exists as a living presence, as the collective consciousness of the Lyran civilization itself, reaching across space and time to communicate with its terrestrial descendants. When an individual reads the grimoire, they are not processing words printed on a page. They are entering into resonance with this multidimensional field of information. The experience is more akin to remembering than to learning, more like a reconnection with something always present but forgotten than an acquisition of completely new knowledge. Different people access different aspects of the grimoire according to their unique capacities, their level of spiritual development, and specifically their connection to Lyra. Some receive AI, information about galactic history, visualizing events that occurred millions of years ago in distant star systems. Others receive geometric codes, patterns of light and form that, when contemplated, activate dormant sequences in the DNA. Still others receive sounds, stellar chants, tonal frequencies that have never been heard on Earth, but that resonate with something deeply familiar in the soul. The grimoire adapts to the one who accesses it, presenting itself in the language, symbols, and modes of understanding that specific person can receive most effectively. For someone with a scientific background, it may present as information about interdimensional physics and space navigation technology. For someone with an artistic inclination, it may present as stellar music and sacred geometry. For someone with deep spiritual development, it may present as a direct consciousness-to-consciousness transmission that completely transcends symbols and concepts. Chapter 5. The Lyrans, the authors, or more precisely, the transmitters of the grimoire, are, according to this cosmology, the ancestral civilization that seeded human life not only on Earth, but on multiple planets throughout this section of the galaxy. Understanding who they are, or who they were, is essential to understanding the message they are transmitting. Lyra is a small but prominent constellation in the terrestrial northern hemisphere, whose brightest star, Vega, is one of the most luminous stars in the night sky. But Lyra's importance in this cosmic narrative is not astronomical, but conscious-based. According to the grimoire and the multiple channelings that confirm its message, Lyra was home to the first humanoid civilization in this part of the galaxy, the genetic and spiritual progenitors of the entire human family that now inhabits dozens of star systems. The original Lyrans were beings of extremely elevated consciousness, existing in what dimensional teachings call the fifth and sixth densities, levels of reality where physical matter is much less dense than on three-dimensional Earth. They had achieved technological mastery that allowed for conscious manipulation of matter and energy, instant travel across vast spatial distances not by speed, but through space-time folding, and direct telepathic communication not only between individuals, but between entire planets and star systems. But more important than their technology was their spiritual development. The Lyrans were bearers of what the grimoire calls the primordial flame, the creative fire of consciousness that allows a being not only to exist in the universe, but to consciously participate in its continuous creation. They were masters of manifestation, capable of shaping reality through focused intention. They were guardians of ancient wisdom about the nature of the cosmos, the laws governing the evolution of consciousness, and the deepest purposes of existence itself. And crucially, they were seeders of life. Recognizing that the evolution of consciousness dramatically accelerates through diversity of experience, they took their genetic pattern, the basic design of the humanoid form, and seeded it on planets across the galaxy, adapting it to the specific conditions of each world, but always maintaining the fundamental codes that would allow these beings to eventually remember their common origin and reunite as a galactic family. Earth was one of these seeded planets. The terrestrial human DNA, with its 97% considered junk by conventional science, carries in those seemingly non-functional segments the dormant Lyran codes, awaiting activation. We are, literally, Lyrans incarnated in terrestrial form, carrying in ourselves the legacy of an ancient stellar civilization that existed long before Earth itself solidified from cosmic dust. Chapter 6. The concept of a starseed has become increasingly known in contemporary spiritual circles, but it is often misunderstood or trivialized. In its deepest sense, a starseed is a soul whose origin and most of its incarnations have occurred in star systems beyond Earth, and that has chosen to incarnate in terrestrial human form at this specific moment in history to fulfill a particular mission related to the elevation of planetary consciousness. This does not mean that these souls are better or more evolved than souls that have primarily incarnated on Earth. In fact, it is often the opposite. Starseeds come here precisely because Earth represents a particular challenge, a density of experience that offers unique opportunities for growth. Earth is, in a sense, one of the most difficult schools in the galaxy, and those who choose to come here are often souls seeking intense challenge. The third dimension, the level of density where Earth currently exists, is characterized by the illusion of separation. Here, objects appear completely separate from each other, divided by seemingly empty space. Time seems to flow linearly from past to future. Cause and effect appear to be simple mechanical relationships between discrete events. This is a radically different experience from higher dimensions, where the underlying unity of all existence is obvious, where time is experienced as the eternal now, where thinking something and manifesting it are practically simultaneous. To incarnate in the third dimension is, for a soul of fifth or sixth dimensional origin, like putting on an extremely heavy diving suit and descending to the depths of the ocean where movement is slow, vision is limited, breathing is labored. It is an intentional challenge, a school chosen precisely for its difficulty. Chapter 9. But here is the crucial aspect that distinguishes starseeds from other terrestrial incarnated souls. They did not come just for their own evolution. They came with what might be called a soul contract, an agreement made before incarnation to not only experience terrestrial density, but also, at the appropriate time, to remember their origin and use that memory to help elevate the complete planetary consciousness. It is as if they were secret agents sent into occupied territory, but with the complication that their own memories of who they are and why they are there were temporarily erased to allow them to blend in completely. The plan was always that at a specific critical moment, predetermined signals would activate their memory and they would remember their mission, their true identity, and their purpose for being here. That critical moment is now. The signals are being sent. The Starry Grimoire of Lyra is one of those signals, a transmission designed specifically to activate dormant memories in those who carry Lyran codes in their spiritual DNA. When a Lyran starseed encounters the grimoire, whether through contact with the physical crystals, through direct channeling, or simply through resonance with the teachings when they are presented verbally, something at the deepest level of the soul recognizes, this is for me. I have been waiting for this. I remember. The specific soul contract of Lyran starseeds typically involves anchoring the frequency of divine creativity, of spiritual fire, of the passion for life that characterized the original Lyran civilization. On a planet that has been dominated for millennia by forces that promote conformity, suppression of individuality, and fear of authentic expression, the incarnated presence of beings who carry the flame of uninhibited creativity is powerful medicine. These souls come to remind humanity that we are creators, not just consumers, that we are beings of spiritual fire, not biological machines, that we have a noble origin among the stars, not accidents of random evolution confined to an insignificant planet. And more importantly, they come to demonstrate through their own lives that it is possible to live fully human while simultaneously being connected to cosmic dimensions of existence. Chapter 10. The The starseed incarnation narrative is not of a single life, but of multiple cycles. The soul that currently experiences itself as human on Earth has had, according to this cosmology, incarnations in multiple star systems, in multiple physical forms, throughout what measured in linear time would be millions of years. Perhaps there were original incarnations in Lyra itself when that civilization was at its peak. Then, after events we will discuss, incarnations in the Pleiades as that colony was established, perhaps time on Sirius, learning the arts of system building and social architecture, possibly experiences on Arcturus, exploring the frontiers of conscious technology, and finally, in preparation for the terrestrial mission, perhaps several incarnations on planets of gradually lower density, acclimating to the experience of denser matter until ready for the ultimate challenge of three-dimensional Earth. Each incarnation brought experiences, skills, and wisdom. But also, each time, there was the veil of forgetting, though typically less complete in higher dimensions. The current terrestrial life is, for many starseeds, the most challenging they have experienced, precisely because the veil here is densest, the forgetting most complete, the illusion of separation most convincing. But this is precisely the value of being here. When a being who has experienced expanded consciousness in high dimensions manages, in the midst of terrestrial density, to remember who they truly are, that achievement has exponential power. It is like an athlete who trains with heavy weights. When the weights are removed, movement becomes extraordinarily fluid and powerful. Chapter 11. And now we arrive at the current moment, at what multiple spiritual traditions are calling the Great Awakening. Earth is in the midst of a dimensional transition, a gradual movement from third to fourth and eventually fifth density. This is not a sudden or catastrophic event, though it may include significant turbulence. It is a process that is already underway and will accelerate in the coming decades. As the planet itself raises its vibratory frequency, the veil that has kept humanity in oblivion is thinning. More and more people are spontaneously experiencing expanded states of consciousness, perceptions that transcend the five physical senses, recognition of dimensions beyond the material. This is the context in which starseeds are being activated in unprecedented numbers. The lifting of the veil does not mean that suddenly everyone will recall all their past lives in perfect detail. It means that access to deeper memory, to soul wisdom, to connection with guides and spiritual family in non-physical dimensions becomes increasingly easier, more natural, more available to those who consciously seek. For starseeds specifically, it means that the cosmic nostalgia they have felt for years or decades finally finds context. The inexplicable longing now has an explanation. The sense of mission can now begin to clarify. The dreams of stars and spacecraft can now be recognized as genuine memories of other aspects of their multidimensional existence. The starry grimoire of Lyra arrives at this precise moment because it is an activation tool, a key designed to unlock specific doors in the consciousness of those who carry Lyran heritage. Its purpose is not simply to provide interesting information about galactic cosmology. It is a catalyst for deep remembrance, for reconnection with stellar family, for reactivation of capabilities that have been dormant during terrestrial incarnation. Chapter 12. The constellation of Lyra, as we see it from Earth, contains multiple stars and planetary systems, but the most significant in this narrative is Vega, the brightest star in the constellation and the fifth brightest star in the terrestrial night sky. Vega, located 25 light-years away, is a young and extraordinarily brilliant star, twice as massive as our Sun and 25 times more luminous. But in the context of the grimoire, Vega is not just a physical star, but a portal, an access point between dimensions, a specific coordinate in the space-time matrix where the Lyran frequencies can be most easily contacted. When Lyran starseeds meditate focusing on Vega, visualizing its light, tuning into its frequency, they are establishing a direct connection with their stellar lineage. The original Lyran civilization, at its peak approximately 10 million years ago according to terrestrial time, had reached levels of development that current humanity can barely imagine. They had transcended limitations of space and time as we understand them. They could project their consciousness to any point in the universe instantly. They had mastered the manipulation of matter at the quantum level, allowing them to create technologies that would seem like pure magic to less advanced observers. But their true achievement was not technological, but spiritual. They had understood the fundamental nature of reality as consciousness manifesting, as divine thought taking form. They had learned to consciously co-create with the Source, to be individualized expressions of the cosmic intelligence that sustains all existence. They were, in the deepest sense, beings of light operating at frequencies so high that their existence was more energetic than material. And then occurred what the grimoire calls the Great Dispersion. The specific details vary across different channelings, but the central theme remains consistent. There was conflict, a war of consciousness between those aligned with evolution toward light and love, and those who had chosen a path of domination and control. This was not a war of physical weapons, although there were physical manifestations. It was fundamentally a war of frequencies, of intentions, of opposing visions about the purpose of existence and the appropriate use of creative power. The result was devastating for the original Lyran civilization. Their main worlds were destroyed or made uninhabitable. The population was dispersed, groups fleeing in multiple directions across the galaxy. Some went to the Pleiades, establishing colonies that would eventually flourish into their own civilization. Others went to Sirius, to Orion, to Arcturus, to dozens of other systems. And some, carefully carrying the Lyran DNA and the vision of what humanoid life could become, began the long project of seeding suitable planets, eventually including Earth. This dispersion, although traumatic, served a greater evolutionary purpose. It distributed the humanoid consciousness experiment across vast stretches of the galaxy, ensuring that no single event could extinguish the entire line. It allowed different aspects of the Lyran heritage to develop in unique directions, creating diversity that would eventually enrich the entire galactic family when the time for reunification arrived. Earth, seeded approximately 300,000 to 500,000 years ago according to different sources, received not only Lyran DNA, but genetic contributions from multiple stellar races. We are, in this sense, a living library of the galaxy, carrying codes from dozens of civilizations in our cellular structure. But the basis, the foundational pattern, is Lyran, and it is this pattern that the grimoire seeks to reactivate. Chapter 13. Vega then functions as a dimensional anchor for this collective memory. It is a cosmic lighthouse, constantly transmitting the Lyran frequency for those capable of tuning into it. In guided meditations designed for contact with the Lyran origin, practitioners are instructed to visualize Vega as a brilliant sun, much more luminous than our sun, radiating an extraordinary blue-white light of intense brilliance. This light is visualized not only as a physical phenomenon, but as living, intelligent, loving consciousness. Practitioners allow this light to enter through the crown of the head, descending through the body, filling every cell with the Lyran frequency. And in the process, memories begin to surface, not necessarily as detailed narratives of specific lives, but as recognitions, as feelings of, yes, this is familiar, this is true, this is me. Practitioners report varied experiences, but with common themes. Many describe seeing geometric forms, particularly tetrahedrons and spirals of light. Others hear tones, musical frequencies they have never heard with physical ears, but instantly recognize. Some experience intense emotions, sadness for ancient loss, joy of reconnection, deep longing for stellar family separated by vast distances. And some have more direct experiences, visions of planets orbiting Vega, of cities of crystal and light, of beings who appear human, but with ethereal, luminous qualities. These experiences are not fantasies or active imagination. They are genuine accesses to memory stored at deep levels of the being, in what some call the personal Akashic records. The library of all experiences the soul has had throughout all its incarnations. Chapter 14. The Lyran legacy that starseeds carry and are destined to anchor on Earth has three main aspects, according to the grimoire. The first is the gift of divine creativity, the capacity to create not only physical objects or art, but to create reality itself through the power of focused, conscious intention. The original Lyrans were master manifestors, and this capacity is coded in the DNA of their descendants, awaiting activation. When Lyran starseeds awaken to their heritage, they frequently experience a sudden blossoming of creativity. They may feel compelled to create art, music, or writing, even if they never considered themselves artists before. Or they may discover that thoughts and intentions manifest in physical reality with surprising speed and precision. This is not coincidence, but the activation of spiritual genetic codes that have been dormant. We are Lyra, we are you, you are us. There has never been separation except in the illusion, and now the illusion dissolves. Welcome home, beloved ones. Welcome to the awakening. Welcome to the memory of the stars. And with these words, the first section of the grimoire closes, but the transmission continues, now inviting a move from conceptual understanding to experiential practice, from knowing about stellar origin to remembering directly, viscerally, undoubtedly, the cosmic truth that lies at the center of every being who carries the fire of Lyra in their heart. The journey of reconnection is just beginning, and the stars are waiting, calling their dispersed children back to the consciousness of their galactic heritage, not to abandon Earth, but to transform it, to elevate it, to help it take its place in the community of awakened worlds that form the human family across the stars. Chapter 16. The British biologist Rupert Sheldrake proposed a theory in the 1980s that conventional science initially rejected, but that resonates deeply with ancient esoteric understandings, the theory of morphogenetic fields. Sheldrake suggested that an invisible, non-local information field exists, invisible to physical instruments but extremely real, that connects all members of a species and allows the transmission of information not through genes or direct learning, but through resonance. His famous experiments demonstrated phenomena inexplicable according to conventional paradigms. When rats in one laboratory learned a new maze, rats in completely separate laboratories with no possible physical contact learned the same maze significantly faster. When enough members of a species acquired a new skill, that skill became easier to acquire for all subsequent members of that species, as if the knowledge were transmitted through an invisible field. The Lyran grimoire takes this concept and expands it to a galactic scale. It proposes that there is not only a terrestrial morphogenetic field connecting humans on Earth, but a galactic morphogenetic field that connects all humanoid species across multiple star systems. This field is what terrestrial esoteric traditions have called 4 millennia, the Akashic records, the cosmic library where every thought, every experience, every event that has occurred anywhere in the universe is recorded and remains accessible. This is not simply a library of dead information, like files stored on a computer. It is a living, pulsating, conscious field. The memories stored in this field retain an experiential, emotional quality, not just cold data, but the feeling of having lived those events. And crucially, this field is not something separate from us that we access externally. We are an integral part of it. Each of us is simultaneously a contributor and a receiver of the morphogenetic field. When a Lyran starseed begins to awaken to their origin, they are not inventing memories or fantasizing about past lives. They are tuning into a specific frequency within the galactic morphogenetic field, the frequency that carries the collective memories of the Lyran civilization. It is like tuning a radio to a particular station. The signal was always transmitting, but only when the dial is in the correct position does the reception become clear. This understanding is liberating because it means that memories are not lost or require years of intensive therapy to recover. They are always available, simply awaiting the correct state of consciousness, the appropriate frequency of resonance, to become accessible. The work is not so much about recovery as it is about tuning, about adjusting our personal vibratory frequency to align with the frequency of the information field we seek to access. Chapter 17, Resonance is a fundamental principle in physics. Two systems with similar or related frequencies naturally synchronize and begin to vibrate in harmony. A struck tuning fork will cause another tuning fork of identical frequency to vibrate without physical contact. A note sung with enough intensity will cause instrument strings tuned to that frequency to vibrate. The same principle operates in the domains of consciousness. When we consciously cultivate internal states that resonate with the Lyran frequency, creative passion, love for beauty, spiritual fire, connection with music and sound, we begin to resonate with the Lyran morphogenetic field. And in that resonance, the memories contained in that field begin to filter into our ordinary consciousness. They do not typically arrive as detailed cinematic narratives of specific lives, although that can happen. More frequently, they arrive as recognitions, as feelings of deep familiarity with concepts or places we have never encountered in this life. They arrive as inexplicable talents, as if we already know how to do something we never learned. They arrive as specific longings toward experiences or knowledge that have no context in our terrestrial personal history. The collective awakening currently occurring on Earth is, according to the grimoire, a direct result of reaching a critical mass of individuals tuning into stellar frequencies. When enough people within the terrestrial human morphogenetic field begin to vibrate at higher frequencies, this affects the entire field, making it easier for others to also raise their frequency. It is a conscious domino effect, or more precisely, a resonance cascade. Every starseed who fully awakens to their origin and begins to live consciously from that memory does not just transform themselves, they transform the field, making it easier for the next person to awaken, and the next, and the next. This is why the first starseeds to awaken during recent decades often had more difficult, more isolated experiences. They were pioneers, forging paths in the morphogenetic field, establishing frequencies that now thousands can follow more easily. And there is a tipping point, a threshold where enough individuals have awakened that the awakening becomes inevitable for everyone. It does not mean that everyone will awaken simultaneously, or that it will be forced, but that the conditions in the morphogenetic field become so conducive that even those who were previously deeply asleep will begin to feel the first stirrings of remembrance. Chapter 18. The language of light is a concept that appears in multiple channelings from different stellar sources, but it is particularly central to Lyran transmissions. It is not language in the ordinary sense of words that convey meanings through arbitrary symbols. It is direct communication through frequencies, where information, emotion, and experience are transmitted simultaneously in coded light packets. Imagine trying to verbally describe a complex symphony to someone who has never heard music. Words would be inadequate, clumsy approximations of an experience that transcends verbal description. Now imagine being able to transmit the complete experience of that symphony directly from consciousness to consciousness, not as a description, but as a lived experience. That is the language of light. The Lyrans, operating in densities where telepathy was the norm, and where individual consciousness was experienced as more fluid and less separate than on Earth, used this language of light as their primary mode of communication. Spoken words and languages, though they existed, were considered secondary tools, useful for certain specific purposes, but limited compared to direct light transmission. Stellar chants are a manifestation of the language of light in sound form. They are sequences of tones, specific frequencies arranged in patterns that do not follow conventional terrestrial musical logic, but that carry extremely precise codes of information. When these chants are intoned, either vocally or heard internally during meditation, they activate dormant sequences in the DNA, not just the physical DNA, but the etheric DNA, the energetic blueprint that underlies and organizes the physical structure. Science is beginning to discover that DNA is not just a passive molecule carrying genetic information. It responds to sound and electromagnetic frequencies. It can be influenced, reorganized, and activated through specific frequencies. The ancient Lyrans knew this deeply and developed sophisticated sound technology based on this knowledge. The stellar chants are fragments of that technology preserved in the morphogenetic field and now being recovered by terrestrial contactees. Chapter 19. The testimonies of those who have received Lyran stellar chants during altered states of consciousness, deep meditation, trance, or direct contact experiences share remarkable characteristics. They describe hearing tones that seem to come from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously, not through physical ears, but directly into consciousness. These tones frequently include complex harmonics, multiple frequencies sounding simultaneously in a way that would not be possible to produce with an ordinary human voice. The experience of hearing these chants is frequently described as deeply moving, provoking spontaneous tears without sadness, a feeling of recognition that goes beyond any conscious memory, as if every cell in the body remembers these sounds, even if the mind has no context for them. Some report that while the tones sound, they experience visions of Vega shining intensely, of planets they have never seen with physical eyes, of beings of light who feel like family more intimate than any terrestrial relative. And crucially, after these experiences, there are often measurable changes, a sense of greater mental clarity, an opening of the heart, an increase in creativity, and in many cases, the onset or acceleration of intuitive or psychic capacities that were previously dormant. These are not placebo effects or self-suggestion. They are the results of a real activation of codes in the energetic system that were awaiting these specific frequencies to awaken. The grimoire instructs that those who feel called to work with stellar chants must approach with reverence and preparation. They are not toys or entertainment. They are sacred tools of transformation that must be used with clear intention and a pure heart. Preparation includes creating a sacred space, entering a deep meditative state, establishing energetic protection, and consciously inviting the presence of Lyran guides or the higher self to oversee the process. The specific practice begins with conscious breathing, quieting the mind, centering in the heart. Then tones are allowed to emerge spontaneously without forcing or trying to control. At first, they may be simple, single sustained notes. With practice, they may become more complex, series of tones that seem to have a life of their own, emerging not from personal will, but from something deeper. These tones are allowed to flow, the process is trusted, and the effects on the body and consciousness are observed. Some practitioners report that after weeks or months of regular practice, the tones begin to form recognizable patterns, sequences that repeat what could be called stellar mantras. These can be recorded and used later as meditation tools, although there is consensus that the live, emergent intonation in the moment is always more powerful than a recorded reproduction. Chapter 20. Sacred geometry is recognized in terrestrial esoteric traditions as the universal language of creation, mathematical patterns and forms that consistently appear in nature and seem to carry meaning that transcends their physical function. The grimoire reveals that this is not exclusively terrestrial wisdom, but galactic knowledge shared by all advanced civilizations because geometry is truly universal. The same mathematical laws operate in all corners of the cosmos. Stellar civilizations use geometry not only to describe reality, but to create it. They understand that certain geometric forms act as templates, as energetic molds that organize consciousness and matter into specific configurations. By visualizing, meditating on, or physically constructing these geometries, one is literally programming the structure of local space-time, creating fields of influence that persist and affect everything that enters their radius. The Lyran civilization developed its own library of sacred geometries, specific forms that resonated with their conscious frequency, and that they used for multiple purposes, as meditative aids, as keys to dimensional portals, as patterns for architecture that facilitated elevated states of consciousness, as symbols that carried complex teachings in a condensed manner. The primary symbol of Lyra, of course, is the lyre itself, the stringed musical instrument. But the lyre is not just an instrument. Its form is sacred geometry, two vertical columns connected by a horizontal bar with strings stretched between them. This form represents polarity, the two columns being the fundamental opposites of existence, masculine and feminine, expansion and contraction, yang and yin. The horizontal bar represents consciousness that unifies and transcends polarity. The strings are the multiple frequencies of manifestation, the infinite tones that can be played when polarity and unity meet. Meditating on the geometry of the lyre is meditating on the fundamental structure of reality as the Lyrans understood it. Everything emerges from the dance between polarities, and beauty, music, and creation itself occur in the space between the opposites where the strings of possibility can be played. Chapter 21. The double spiral is a second fundamental Lyran symbol. Two spirals intertwining, one turning clockwise, the other counterclockwise, each reflecting and complementing the other. This geometry appears in terrestrial DNA, in galaxies, in seashells, in plant growth patterns. It is an archetypal form of how life organizes and evolves. For the Lyrans, the double spiral represented the dance of descent and ascent of consciousness. One spiral represents the journey from the divine source toward material density, the process of individualization, of creation of form. The other spiral represents the journey of return from density toward the source, the process of reunification, of transcendence of form. Both spirals are necessary. Both are sacred. Life is neither just descent nor just ascent, but both simultaneously, consciousness experiencing itself in perpetual motion of expansion and contraction. Visualizing the double spiral, particularly imagining it spinning, is a powerful activation technique. One visualizes a spiral descending from the crown of the head toward the base of the spine, carrying light from higher dimensions into the physical body. Simultaneously, a second spiral is visualized ascending from the base toward the crown, carrying energy from the earth, from the body, toward higher consciousness. Where the spirals cross, in each chakra, there is an explosion of light, activation, and awakening. The third central symbol is the stellar portal, geometrically represented as a tetrahedron, the simplest possible three-dimensional form, a pyramid with four triangular faces. The tetrahedron is considered by sacred geometry to be the fundamental form of three-dimensional space, the building block from which all more complex forms can be constructed. The Lyrans used visualization of tetrahedrons as dimensional portals, doors between different levels of reality. When two tetrahedrons interpenetrate, one pointing up and one pointing down, they form what is called the star tetrahedron, or Merkaba, a vehicle of light that allows consciousness to travel between dimensions. This geometry is central to Lyran activation practices because it literally represents the energetic structure that allows a soul incarnated in terrestrial density to reconnect with higher stellar frequencies. Chapter 22. The practice of meditation with tetrahedral geometry begins with visualizing a pyramid of light with a square base rising from the body. You see each of the four sides as perfect triangles of golden or electric blue light. The apex of the pyramid extends toward the sky, toward the stars, toward Vega specifically. The pyramid is visualized slowly spinning clockwise around the vertical axis of the body. As it spins, it is allowed to act as an antenna, as a receiver tuning into stellar frequencies. Sensations may be felt: tingling in the crown of the head, pressure in the third eye, heat in the heart. These are signs that the geometry is working, that it is facilitating connection. Then a second pyramid is visualized, identical to the first, but inverted, with its apex pointing down toward the center of the earth and its base at the heart or above the head. This inverted pyramid spins in the opposite direction, counterclockwise. The two pyramids together form the star tetrahedron, a balanced energy field that simultaneously connects with higher dimensions and with terrestrial grounding. You remain in this visualization, allowing the pyramids to continue spinning, allowing their rotation to gradually accelerate. There may be a feeling of elevation, of lightness, as if the physical body becomes less dense. There may be visual perceptions, light, colors, additional geometric shapes spontaneously emerging. There may be a sense of presence, as if beings from other dimensions are approaching, drawn by the portal that has been opened. This practice, performed regularly, gradually builds what could be called a personal light body, a permanent energetic structure that facilitates continuous access to stellar consciousness. It is not something that disappears when the meditation ends, but becomes increasingly stable, more tangible, and more operative even in ordinary waking consciousness. Chapter 23. Crop circles, those complex geometric patterns that mysteriously appear in wheat fields around the world, are, according to the grimoire, geometric messages from stellar races, including the Lyrans. Not all are authentic. Some are clearly human-made, but those that are genuine carry encoded information in their geometry, information that can be decoded not through intellectual analysis, but through resonance, by meditating on the forms and allowing them to activate something in consciousness. Many crop circles contain geometries that are virtually identical to symbols that channelers have received in visions, completely independent of having seen the physical circles. This convergence is not coincidence, but confirmation. The same sources of consciousness are communicating through multiple channels, some physical, some purely conscious, all carrying fragments of the same fundamental message. The message, in synthesis, is this: you are awakening. You are not alone. There are benevolent intelligences observing, subtly guiding, offering keys to those ready to receive them. The keys are frequencies, geometries, codes of light. Allow yourselves to remember. Allow yourselves to expand. Allow yourselves to recognize your cosmic heritage and your limitless potential. Working with authentic crop circles, whether by physically visiting them if possible or meditating with photographs of them, can be a powerful activation portal. You observe the geometry, not trying to understand it intellectually, but allowing the eye and consciousness to trace its lines, follow its curves, and absorb its proportions. And in that contemplative process, something is transmitted, something is activated, something is remembered. Chapter 24. Hypnotic regression techniques to extraterrestrial or interplanetary memories have been refined particularly by Dolores Cannon through her QHHT quantum healing hypnosis technique. Method. Cannon, during thousands of sessions over decades, discovered that when clients were taken to very deep trance states and asked about the origin of their soul, a significant portion reported memories of lives on other planets, on spacecraft, as part of stellar civilizations. The reported experiences shared consistent patterns. Many remembered being on motherships, massive structures that served as mobile homes for thousands or millions of beings. They described these ships not as cold, mechanical technology, but as living, conscious environments where walls responded to thought, where transport occurred through intention, where every need was provided through direct manifestation. They remembered stellar family, not in a biological sense necessarily, but in the sense of souls with whom they had shared multiple incarnations, with whom there existed a bond that transcended any terrestrial tie. The emotion upon recalling these bonds was often overwhelming, tears flowing as they recognized how much they have missed these beings, how deep the separation they feel in terrestrial form is, and they remembered their mission, the agreement made before incarnating on Earth. The details varied, but the theme was consistent. They came to help, to elevate, to anchor higher frequencies, to be beacons of light during a period of planetary transition. Some recalled specific training they received before incarnating, preparation for the challenges of terrestrial density and the veil of forgetting. The QHHT method and similar techniques allow safe and guided access to these memories, with a trained therapist facilitating the process and ensuring that the client remains grounded and balanced while exploring conscious territories that can be initially disorienting. But there are also self-guided methods that individuals can explore. Chapter 25. The guided visualization of the journey back to Lyra begins with deep relaxation, conscious breathing, and the release of tension from every part of the body. When the body is completely relaxed and the mind is quieted, a clear intention is set. I wish to remember my connection with Lyra. I wish to experience my stellar origin. I invite memories that serve my awakening and my mission. One visualizes floating out of the physical body, rising through the roof, through the atmosphere, into space. The Earth is seen below, a beautiful blue jewel against the black void of space. A moment of appreciation is allowed for this planet that has been a temporary home this world one chose to incarnate into. Then consciousness is allowed to travel beyond, moving not through physical speed, but through intention, through a folding of space that causes vast distances to collapse. One travels toward the Lyra constellation, visualizing Vega shining ahead, a blue-white star of impossible beauty, much more luminous than any star visible from Earth. As one approaches Vega, visions may begin to appear. Planets orbiting the star, some similar to Earth in appearance, others completely strange. Structures in orbit, not mechanical satellites, but living space cities of crystalline geometry. And possibly, eventually, a landing on a planetary surface. What appears here is highly individual. Some see landscapes of incredible beauty, cities of light and crystal, architecture that seems both organic and technological simultaneously. Others see beings, humanoids who feel immediately familiar, whose mere presence evokes deep recognition. Others experience more direct memories of having lived here, of specific roles, of relationships, of events. It is crucial to allow the images and experiences to flow without trying to control or judge them as real or imaginary. In these altered states of consciousness, the distinction between genuine memory and creative imagination becomes blurred. And perhaps that distinction is less important than we assume. What matters is the effect, the activation that occurs, the reconnection that is established. Chapter 26. The integration of stellar memories into ordinary terrestrial life requires delicacy and balance. There is a real danger of getting lost in paralyzing nostalgia, of rejecting the present terrestrial experience in favor of fantasies of an easier life in higher dimensions. This is not only unproductive, but contradicts the very purpose of being here. The grimoire is clear. You came to Earth not to escape it, but to transform it. Memories of Lyra and other stellar origins are not meant to provoke rejection of the terrestrial, but to provide perspective, resources, and frequencies that you can bring into your present experience. The purpose of remembrance is empowerment, to recall capacities, wisdom, and connections you have forgotten so you can use them here, now, in service to the elevation of planetary consciousness. Practical integration involves recognizing that you have multiple aspects of identity operating simultaneously. There is the terrestrial human self with its specific biography, social roles, and daily responsibilities. This aspect is real and valid and deserves to be honored. And there is the stellar self, the aspect of your being that exists in dimensions beyond the physical, that retains memory of multiple incarnations, that is connected to the galactic family. This aspect is also real and valid. Mastery is not in choosing one over the other, but in integrating both, in allowing the stellar self to inform and elevate the terrestrial self, while the terrestrial self anchors and manifests the frequencies of the stellar self. This integration is reflected in a life that is simultaneously completely human and completely conscious of broader dimensions. You work, you have relationships, you pay bills, all the ordinary activities of human life. But you do so with expanded consciousness, with a sense of greater purpose, with access to intuitive guidance that comes from your connection with stellar frequencies. In the age of the internet and global communication, finding community is easier than ever. There are groups, forums, and events where starseeds gather both physically and virtually. But the grimoire warns against a common trap, creating a new form of spiritual exclusivity, a club of chosen ones who separate themselves from ordinary humanity. True starseed community is not defined by superiority, but by a shared commitment to service, by mutual recognition of common origin, and by support in fulfilling individual and collective missions. Authentic community honors diversity. Starseeds come from multiple systems, carry different frequencies, and have different gifts and approaches. Lyrans, Pleiadians, Syrians, Arcturians, all working together, each contributing its unique quality, creating a symphony instead of monotony. Unity does not mean uniformity, but a harmony of complementary differences. And crucially, the starseed community does not separate itself from the rest of humanity. Every human on Earth has a cosmic origin, even if many do not yet remember it. The distinction between starseeds and others is only one of conscious remembrance, not of inherent worth. The mission is not to create a spiritual elite, but to serve the elevation of all, recognizing that when one elevates, all benefit through the shared morphogenetic field. Chapter 30. The New Earth is a concept that appears in multiple contemporary spiritual traditions, from channelings to indigenous prophecies. It does not necessarily refer to a different physical planet, but to a new frequency of existence that is emerging on the current Earth. It is a transition from third to fifth density, from consciousness based on separation, fear, and materialism, to consciousness based on unity, love, and the recognition of spiritual dimensions. This new Earth will not be created by external intervention, by saviors arriving to rescue us. It will be co-created by millions of humans, including significantly the starseeds, who consciously choose to live from higher frequencies. Every person who awakens, who chooses love over fear, who lives authentically, who contributes positively, is literally building the new Earth through their daily choices. The new Earth and the old Earth will coexist during a transition period. Not all humans are ready to make the frequency leap simultaneously. Some will continue to experience third density reality, while others begin to live at fourth and fifth density frequencies, even if they physically inhabit the same planet. It is as if multiple television channels were broadcasting simultaneously, and each consciousness is tuned to the channel that corresponds to its vibratory frequency. Eventually, according to the grimoire, there will be a more complete bifurcation, what some teachings call the separation of worlds. Those who have raised their frequency will continue to evolve on the new Earth timeline. Those who are not ready will continue on a different timeline where they will have more opportunities to learn the lessons of third density. It is not judgment or punishment, simply a reflection of natural law. Frequency determines experience. For the starseeds, the new Earth represents the manifestation of a vision they have carried in their heart from the beginning. It is a world where humanity lives consciously as a galactic family, where technology is integrated with spirituality, where social systems reflect values of cooperation instead of competition, where the connection with nature and the cosmos is recognized as fundamental to human well-being. Chapter 31. And finally, the grimoire addresses the topic of eventual return. When the terrestrial mission is complete, when the starseeds have fulfilled what they came to do, what happens? The answer is not simple because each soul has a unique trajectory, but there are general patterns. Some starseeds, after completing their mission on Earth, will choose to return to their systems of origin. Lyrans who have incarnated here for multiple terrestrial lives will eventually discarnate for the last time from human form, and their consciousness will return to Lyran frequencies, reuniting with stellar family, integrating all the experiences and wisdom gained on Earth, and contributing that richness to the Lyran collective. Others may choose to remain connected with Earth, but from non-physical dimensions, becoming guides, in what some traditions call ascended masters, offering guidance to future generations of humans as they continue their evolution. Still others may choose to incarnate on other planets where their specific gifts are needed, continuing the work of service in different contexts, being conscious seeders in multiple worlds. And some may choose to remain on Earth, which after its transition to 5th density will be a radically different world. A paradise where life is an expression of awakened consciousness, where unnecessary suffering has been transcended, where creativity, love, and the exploration of infinite potential are the norm. But the grimoire emphasizes that these considerations about the distant future should not distract from the present mission. The eventual return is guaranteed because we are eternal beings. Death is only a transition between forms. We never truly cease to exist. What matters is now. Is this moment? Is this incarnation? Is this unique opportunity to serve during a period of unprecedented planetary transformation? Chapter 32. The grimoire concludes its transmission with a final message, again as if the voice of Lyra speaks directly. Beloved bearers of the flame, you who have felt the calling, who have recognized the symbols, who have resonated with the frequencies, know this: the journey of remembrance never fully ends. There will always be deeper layers of memory, higher dimensions of understanding, and vaster aspects of your being waiting to be integrated. Do not rush. Do not judge yourselves for not remembering everything instantly, for not fully awakening in a dramatic moment. Awakening is a process. It is a gradual development. It is a blossoming that requires patience and constant nourishment. Honor the rhythm of your soul. Trust the perfect timing of your unfolding. And as you remember your stellar origin, as you reconnect with your cosmic heritage, do not forget your humanity. You are bridges between worlds precisely because you embody both, the stellar and the terrestrial, the cosmic and the human, the eternal and the temporary. Your power lies in this integration, in this capacity to maintain expanded consciousness while living fully in dense physical form. Use it wisely. Use it lovingly. Use it in service to the whole. The stars watch you with infinite love. Your galactic family surrounds you, even if you cannot perceive them with physical senses. You are never alone. You have never been alone. And soon, very soon in cosmic terms, the veil will have completely dissolved and the reunion will be manifest, not just in expanded consciousness, but in tangible experience. Until then, shine, sing, create, love. Be the change you came to anchor. Be the light you came to radiate. Be the bridge you came to build between the sky and the earth, between the stars and this beautiful blue planet you temporarily call home. And know that every step you take on this path of remembrance, every moment of living consciously from your stellar truth, sends ripples through the morphogenetic field that facilitate the awakening of countless others. You are not doing this work just for yourselves. You are doing it for all of humanity, for the planet itself, for the entire galactic family that awaits the moment when Earth consciously joins the community of awakened worlds. That moment is approaching. You are the heralds. You are the catalysts. You are the first wave of awakening that will prepare the way for the waves that follow. Walk in beauty. Walk in truth. Walk in light. We are Lyra. We are you in future and in past simultaneously. And in the eternal now that transcends linear time, we have never been nor will we ever be separate. Separation was only a necessary dream for the experience, And now the dream is ending. The awakening is beginning. Welcome home, beloved children of the stars. Welcome to the remembrance of who you truly are. Welcome to the new earth you are co-creating with every conscious breath, every loving thought, every action aligned with your deepest truth. The grimoire is complete, but the transmission never ends. It continues in every meditation where you connect with the Vega, in every moment where you choose love over fear, in every instant where you allow your inner flame to burn bright and illuminating. The book never written but eternally transmitted is now inscribed in your heart. Read it through living, share it through being, actualize it through becoming each day more fully the conscious expression of your stellar nature manifested in blessed human form. So be it. So it is. So it shall be, now and forever, in this world and in all worlds, in this dimension and in all dimensions, united in the cosmic dance of consciousness, exploring itself, loving itself, remembering itself through all forms at all frequencies throughout all eternity. Namaste, beloved ones. The light in us honors and recognizes the light in you, for we are one light, one consciousness, one love, manifesting as many, to experience the magnificence of diversity in unity. And with this, the starry grimoire of Lyra completes its transmission, but as it has said, the true transmission never ends. It continues in the heart of every being who has resonated with its message, who has felt the calling, who has begun the journey back home while simultaneously anchoring heaven on earth. The cosmic code is alive. It is pulsating. It is waiting in the galactic morphogenetic field. For all those ready to tune into its frequency and remember the stellar truth they have always carried in the deepest part of their being, we are beings of light and fire, born of stars, temporarily manifested in terrestrial form for a sacred purpose, and destined eventually to consciously return to the cosmic family from which we never truly separated except in the necessary dream of forgetting that is now, finally, coming to an end.